Okay, well, thank you very much. And thanks very much for the invitation to speak to you today. My name is Fiona Foley. I'm a senior project manager with the National Dementia Office, and I'm joined by Kevin Quaid, who's an author and a fantastic advocate for dementia. And we'll talk a little bit more about Kevin later as well when he introduces himself. I think it's really fitting that we're talking about dementia today. It's really exciting because it's culture night. And what the Dementia Understand Together campaign is all about is changing the dementia culture that we have in Ireland. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of how we go about that and why it is important to do that. So what are we trying to do with Dementia Understand Together? Well, first of all, this is not just one organization doing something, but when we're talking about a culture change, it's about a collaboration of people coming together. So the same with the Dementia Understand Together campaign. While it's led by the HSE, we work with numerous different partners, such as the Alzheimer Society, the Dementia Information Services, Age and Opportunity, Healthy Ireland, Age Friendly Ireland, and we all work together to try and look at how can we shift a culture for dementia here in Ireland. And what we're trying to do is that make sure that people with dementia are embraced and included in their communities. So when we talk about a culture change, and I think that's really vital because it affects everybody who sits here in the room as well, is that culture change is focused on people in communities. So culture happens through the way we act, the way we think, the way we interact with one another. So we can actually influence the changes that are happening in a community and in a society by our own actions, by our own behaviors. So if you think of yourself and you're leading out with a positive behavior, people who trust you, people who know you, they will follow those behaviors. And suddenly you notice that you'll have a trickle effect of positive behaviors in our society. And that's how we change a culture of dementia as well. So when we talk about a culture change, it's really important to look at, well, what are actually the elements? And we talk to people with dementia and we talk to families and carers and supporters. And these are the things that they said mattered most to them. So that people with dementia can stay connected and respected and included in their community, and that they are understood, that they can stay socially active and engaged, that the businesses are responsive to people's needs, and also that the built environment is accessible. And if you look at those 4 outcomes, they're no different for a person with dementia than they are to us as well. These are the things that we find important when we look at our communities. And so we just have to see, well, does a person with dementia need a little bit more support in order to stay connected and stay engaged? Or what can we do to make our spaces more accessible as well? So sometimes when we look at those outcomes, it can be quite difficult to know, well, what does that mean for me now? If I'm part of this movement, if I'm part of this culture change, well, what should I be doing? So we translated these outcomes into simple actions. And again, it's what people with dementia said meant something to them. And they felt that these actions would really make a difference in people's lives. And first of all, it is about see the person and not dementia. And it's the same with Kevin's book and the title of the book, that he is Kevin and he's not Lewy. And I think that we have to remember that there is the person there. And just because somebody has a diagnosis doesn't mean that that diagnosis defines the person. But also the small things that we start talking about dementia, that we stay in touch with a person. We can all think about, is there somebody in our life that we haven't reached out to, that we haven't been in touch with, that we haven't called in to say hello and to engage? Or is there somebody who hasn't joined the club anymore that I go to? And how can we make sure that that person can come and continue to stay active? So we all have a role to play in that, and we can look at these simple actions of what can we do on a day-to-day basis. So our campaign works with over 40 national organizations. So they range from transport to retail to academia to our libraries to the guards and so on. And so they all look at what role they have and how can they make sure that our communities are inclusive. But we also work with people in our local communities. So we have 650 people who've just contacted our campaign and said, I want to do something. What can I do in my community? Can I help raise awareness? Can I go to my local business and speak to them about dementia? How can I help create an inclusive community for everybody? And one thing that is really important about that whole topic of culture change and about creating inclusive communities and taking actions is that we share these actions and share these stories. Because if we don't talk about what is happening in our community, if we don't talk about dementia, if we don't share the positive behaviors that people are taking, we cannot inspire people. So we need to start talking about this more and more in order to really engage with people and to make sure that we start communicating the values that we have, the values of what our community should be looking like, and that we touch people's emotions. And that's how you create the empathy as well. You'd mentioned it earlier that when you share, a personal story, when you share personal images, that's how you create empathy as well. And that's how we motivate people to take more actions and get involved. Another thing that we created is a dementia inclusive community symbol, because I mentioned all the different partners. I mentioned the different activities that are happening in our community, such as businesses getting trained up, or people doing walkability audits in communities, or they're setting up dementia cafes, or looking at that choirs are inclusive. But sometimes these things aren't visible because we're not talking about them. So we created the symbol again together with people with dementia and a lot of different other stakeholders in order to symbolize that solidarity with people with dementia. It's meant as an overarching symbol of solidarity and inclusivity, and we really hope to see that out widely in our communities. And we're engaging with a lot of our partners so that they will be showing these symbols in their stores and in their premises as well. I'd mentioned we talked to people with dementia when we developed it, but we went much further as well. We had lots of focus groups with different organizations, with local champions, and also with the public at the ploughing championships. And you can't get a more diverse audience there. And they all agreed that this symbol says what it's supposed to say, that this is a dementia inclusive community. We are standing behind people with dementia. There are numerous resources that people can access. So I won't go into them in detail now, but if you are interested, you can access them through the Health Promotion website and also through our Understand Together website. And they include the badges we're wearing, they include the window stickers, posters, and so on. And so we'd really hope to see, us all together raising awareness for dementia. So before I go and sit beside Kevin and let Kevin talk more about his own experiences, we wanted to share Kevin's story as well. Kevin filmed this fantastic video to share his own story of living with dementia.
I'm Kevin Quaid. I'm 55 years of age. I'm a passionate Limerick man, but I'm living in North Cork. And I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease just over 3 years ago, and with Lewy Body Dementia about 2.5 years ago. Pint of my usual. At the moment, I am, I suppose, what you call semi-independent, in that I'm living at home, and Helena, my wife, is my full-time carer. It means I can live a pretty normal life. Cheers, lads.
Aye. Cheers, buddy.
It's not just living within these four walls. The people in my community involuntarily have become my carers part-time, if you like. I have a great life because I have a balance in my life. And the balance in my life is when I can go into my local Lincoln Turk, sit down, have a drink, be one of the boys, go to the local coffee shop, have a coffee, be just an ordinary customer. I got diagnosed with Lewy Body Dementia that day my family were diagnosed with it. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's a lot easier to have it than live with someone who has it. But we as a family have discussed everything from me not knowing who I am, nursing home, funeral, driving, power of attorney, you name it. So when the day comes that I can no longer pretty much do anything for myself, or I can't be left alone, the family know what Dad wants. Helena knows what her husband wants. Do you know what? This is home care at its finest. at its finest. You won't get, when you're capable of doing this, and there's people with dementia in middle stages and even late stages, they can go, listen to that, they can go for a walk, see this, because by God, it means a hell of a lot to me. I don't have to be inside in my cottage. I don't have to be outside in my rose garden. Once I'm in my community, I feel I'm at home. When you're diagnosed and when you're told you have a disease that's progressive and incurable, and you know, even saying it now, it chokes me up. But you can live with it and you can live well.
What the video is doing is basically shows Kevin in his own community. And Kevin, you know, not only did you have a lot of fun doing the video, but you also got great responses as well. So what was your experience with that and filming it? And why do you think people reacted so positively about you talking about your own personal experiences like that?
I think they're reacting so positively because they're seeing me in a pub drinking for 20 minutes. It was great fun making. That was one of the first videos that I made. And I made it in my local town, which is Kentucky in North Cork. But the thing about Kentucky in North Cork is I moved there 8 years ago. And I knew no one, and definitely no one knew me back then. And I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 51. And then I was diagnosed with Lewy Body Dementia at the age of, I think, 53. And I was 62 weeks ago. But what do you do when you get a diagnosis? What happens when you get a diagnosis? If I go into, and I've the honour of working with Sean on a number of occasions, if I go into Sean's office at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I come out at 11:30 or 12, providing you don't keep it there all day, I have a name to what's wrong with me, but I'm still the same person. I'm still Kevin Quaid. And it took me a long time to get my head around that. And to go back to community involvement, how did I tell people? And it goes back to what I had last year when Terry Pratchett was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. About an hour history here talking on this console night. He was asked who we tell. So we tell everyone. And when I was diagnosed, I was keeping a journal for my neurologist. I was going up every 6 weeks, and one of the doctors asked me after probably 6 months to know whether I write a book. And I had a bit of a witty character at times, and I said, "You're the doctor, and I'm supposed to have dementia, and you're asking me to write a book." And I couldn't write an essay going to school. I hated school, period. And when I thought about it, it bugged me. It really, really bugged me. And I made a New Year's resolution that I chance writing a book. Except, I mean, what could happen? All I could do was fail. And that was the first book I published, called Lewy Body Dementia Survival and Me. I didn't know myself for sitting inside in a studio one day, just before we go on the air, and the girl that was hosting the radio program said, do you realise you're the first person in the world to write a book about Lewy Body Dementia from the patient's point of view? I was blown away by it, because I was there to promote the night when I was going to launch my book. And newspapers wanted me, radios wanted me, televisions wanted me. So I went and I found the biggest pub I could in Kentucky. And people in every part of Ireland are so nosy that they filled the place. And I stood up on stage and I said, my name is Kevin Quaid, I'm a Limerick man, which is just across the border, and I have Lewy Body Dementia. And there's nothing wrong with my memory. And I got a round of applause for that. And it took the people of Kentucky a long time to get their head around it, just like it took me a long time to get my head around it. And now when I go to town, I go for a pint, I can go for a cup of coffee. Here's Quaid from Limerick. I can tell you one thing, when Limerick are playing carp in the hallway. Do you think they talk to you about my dementia? No. They treat me as a normal human being. And that's how any of us want to be treated in our community. And that is where it starts. With this badge, with the sticker you showed, and lately I've gone around to ask different businesses would they be interested in getting training from Understand Together on dementia-friendly communities. And everyone has said yes. How much does it cost? It's free. What's the catch? There isn't. Everyone wants to know what's in it for them. And if you're selling something, you have to let them know what's in it for them. So what's in it for them is, there's a sticker on their window that says they're dementia friendly. There's a photograph going on social media, and they're thinking, more business, more money, people will think we're great. And that is how communities like mine begin to understand people like me. They don't have to understand the complexities of my disease. They just need to know that I have a brain disease. They need to know that I need to be treated like anyone else in the community. But they also know that there's times I may need help. And every now and again someone will come up to me, they know me so well now, and I mightn't look great or whatever. They just say, Kevin, are you okay today? Or if I was away for a couple of days, were you in hospital or were you, they call it at work? I said, I was at work, I haven't been in hospital in quite a while. That's the power of a community known shared dementia.
You've always been very open, Kevin, about talking about your diagnosis as well, whether it's with your family and sitting down and talking about what this means, but also to the community. And your experiences, have they always been so positive, the feedback, or have you had other experiences as well that were more difficult?
They're not difficult, they're very positive. And I go to my local and we'll sit inside and there's 5 or 6 of us together and there's a conversation going on. And one of them won't say, there's no point including him, he'll forget about it. I love that. I absolutely love that. Because it means that they actually take me serious. They actually take what I have serious. Down through the years, we've worked with so many different groups. And I have seen people like myself who, I suppose, up and still early to middle stage. I've seen people with late stage. There's 2 things that you'll never forget. You'll never forget feeling. And you'll never forget what someone made you feel. that goes back to you and flowers. They couldn't identify the flowers, but they could identify the feeling. And that is there with everyone. And I firmly believe that no one loses it, because there's a very good friend of mine in very, very late stages of Lewy Body Dementia. But every now and again, he'll say something. He can't talk, but he can smile. You can see it in his eyes. And there are people born deaf and dumb and blind. They still can live normal lives. And they are still treated as normal human beings. So just because you are a nursing home, just because you are non-verbal, does not mean that you can't communicate. And it does not mean that you shouldn't be listened to. You actually have a right to be listened to. But you have to look for the signs. Again, like your drawings, they may be very subtle, but they are there.
Yeah, and I think you're right that when we're talking about community, it isn't just our community here, it's any community, it's whether it's in a nursing home or whether it's a different setting. And can I ask you, Kevin, have you seen a change? That we're talking about culture change, we're talking about, positive behaviours, responses, and you see the responses you get in your community. But have you seen a bigger change as well for dementia, that you see that there is a positive movement?
I suppose I've been advocate now going on 7 years, and I have seen a paradigm shift. The shift is unbelievable. And it comes from a team of people. You do nothing on your own, you can't do anything on your own. Like the lads here, Sean, you and I have done a lot of work together. And they can describe the brain to you in its greatest detail. I could never come close, I couldn't even try to do anything like that. It amazes me what they know about. But they need my voice. Because I'm the person that can tell them what it's like to have the disease. My wife is the person that can tell them what it's like to live with the disease. And there is a massive, massive difference in that. And the PPI that we do, that's patient public involvement, we won't go into about patients at the moment, but the shift that has made, researchers are coming to us because we are the lived experience. I'm an expert in nothing, except one thing. I'm an expert in what it is to have Lewy Body Dementia. I can tell you exactly what it's like to have. I can tell you about waking up in the night, bent over like a baby, terrified of who's lying next to me. I trust we look a little bit better for anyway. Not knowing who I even am, not knowing my name and crying like a child. You're not going to see that up here in front of me. I'm at work, I'm on stage, I have my mask on. When I'm at home, the mask comes off. And he reckons that I'm just supposed to, that it slips. But yeah, it's not this good all the time.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of good. And I think early diagnosis and proper diagnosis is vital. Absolutely vital. And I think the clips we saw earlier on prove that.
And Kevin, you just mentioned having your voice heard, and I mean these are opportunities where you speak and through research where you're involved. But you've also been a lot of times now involved also when businesses have come to you and have asked for your feedback, whether it's through focus groups or through walkability audits and so on. And that's quite interesting that they are really keen to understand, what does it mean to live with Lewy Body Dementia or for a different type of dementia. And I think, travelling up here, you always have that experience about your travels and how that has changed. Maybe you can give a practical example as well of that.
6 years ago, about 6 years ago, I wouldn't even consider going on a train journey on my own. Not if the lotto numbers were in Houston Station, where I got on the train on my own in Mallow and travelled to Houston. No way. Because of fear, paranoia, afraid of being on my own, not having the support of Helena with me. And then we did some work with Irish Radio. And now I travel to Dublin. We're in Dublin every week, but I get on that train on my own. I can go anywhere on my own. I'm not able to drive. I haven't been able to drive in 7 years. But the funny thing about it is I had to walk nowhere. But I get on the train with Irish Radio. And when I do get on the train to come to Dublin for a day, I know the 5.5 million people in Ireland, the happiest person in Ireland is my wife. He's not going to be back till 6 o'clock this evening and she gets a break from me. And it's companies like that that ask us to become involved. Boots or another company, the pharmaceutical company. They have been magnificent to us, absolutely magnificent. And again, they want to hear the voice of the lived experience. And I think that's what it all lies, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's not just about, one action and that is it, but it is about sustainability. It is about us making a real shift and a real change, and understanding dementia and understanding your experiences is vital to that. Otherwise, we can't do that. And it's the same when we take actions now in our communities. We need to know how can we support this, what can we do to create an inclusive space. Kevin, you've achieved a lot. I'm just conscious of time as well. We have the books here in front of us. You're an amazing advocate for people with dementia, and you're always there to support with an open ear for people as well, and they might be, they have their own concerns, they need somebody to talk to. But what's next on your agenda? Because you always have some big plans. So what's the next plan?
There's a few big plans. There's one thing I want to tell you about very quickly that I was at last Monday. It was the Cork GA Memorial Day. And what we had was, I'm a Limerick man, right? And I accidentally put on a white shirt when I was being tired. I don't know why I did that. And I interviewed Fergal McCormack, who played centre back for Cork in 1999 All Ireland. They beat Kilkenny, they won it in a scoreline of 13 points to 12. Cork had 16 miles, Kilkenny had 17 miles. Kilkenny got their first score after 19 minutes. DJ Carey was held scoreless. The day never stopped raining. And I interviewed Fergal McCormack, and I interviewed him with a series of questions from his young age up to the All Ireland and to where he is now coaching. And then we opened up the floor for questions and answers. And the first thing I said was there anyone here at the All Ireland in 1999? There was people there with Alzheimer's that could not speak, that hadn't spoken. And I go back to what I said a while ago. The hands went up and the partners went silent. And you could see the smile on their face. We showed clips of the game. They remembered it. They remembered everything about it. They probably knew more than we'd ever known about those games. And that community, and I know we spoke about head injuries and everything earlier on, and my dad, we should see them back then. But that's another story. But we're such a small island, and we're such a unique island, and we're such a lovely family. United by sport, united by music, united by reading, united by the arts. And when I wrote my second book called AM Kevin NOT Lewy, it's not about Lewy Body Dementia. It's for everyone and anyone. There's any kind of a disease or a loved one. That's how to cope and what you can do if you're diagnosed early in the time. And every family has a story. And what's next for me is, 5 years ago, I was an ambassador for Bluebird Care, and I was doing every speech by saying, I won't see my 60th birthday. And I won't see it again because I passed it a couple of weeks ago. I'm on my third book. And my third book is what you can achieve when you go from middle to end stage, or what you can do for your loved one, or where music comes in. Look at Mike Hanrahan from Stockton Swing. Look at the power that he's doing with his music. Storytelling. You have someone in a nursing home who doesn't know their name. Play their favourite tune and they'll sing along with it. And that's, we can't leave anyone behind. And that's my aim. I aim to be in Australia in January and booked to do a talk in Hobart, in the University of Tasmania. They're only two of my goals. I am going to keep going for as long as I can keep breathing. I think it's because the man above won't take me in the different around here, so I'm saying I'll stop here. I better finish with that. And there's one other thing, and going back to my earlier point about when you were diagnosed, I also write for 3 newspapers. And the editor of one of the newspapers rang me the other day and he says, I haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks, he said, because I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I said, you're still the same blackguard, aren't you? He said, I am. And he had a DAT scan and he rang me today and he was thrilled. It's, as he said, it's just Parkinson's. And I said, you know where I am if I want to talk. And that's all people want. They want someone to be there for them. They want someone they can talk to. They want someone that can listen. And they want someone that can understand. Sorry for going on for but it's just such an honor to be here and thanks everyone.
You know, Kevin has his books outside as well, and if you want to get involved in the campaign, it's understandtogether.ie, and you can look us up. We'd be delighted to have more champions on board. Thanks very much.